Hey, yo, what up, y'all? How y'all doing today? Hey, shout out to all the followers out there. Shout out to all the MVPs. Thank you guys for being members of the channel. Doing an impromptu live stream today. Usually I'm working all day, and we got the podcast coming in about 2 weeks. We'll start doing podcasts every single day if you guys know the channel and you know how I get down. But in the middle of all my research, as I evaluate defenses, by the way, I already finished all the offensive players. I'll get into that, and I'll do an entire show on that at another time. If you guys don't know what I'm talking about, I'm getting ready for the football season. Shout out to all the MVPs out there. This is what I'm doing. I just evaluated all the offensive teams, every single team's position groups, every single team's players and whatnot on the offensive side of the ball in the entire country. I broke down film on everyone, and now I'm on the defense, and I'm starting the defense, and I just finished Akron, and here I am ready to make this video because I saw the UFL just had a college football draft. And that gets me so excited because only I know these players off the top of the dome. Not a lot of talking heads on TV are going to talk about this. Not everybody knows. This is my fault. This should not be down here in this graphic. Let's change that right now because that's the playoffs, and we don't do that. And this is why I'm here, bro. And this is why it's a one-man show, and we're not starting the show over. We're just going to keep rocking. Now, I'm going to do this show with no notes. We don't have notes, so I will use Google from time to time. It really doesn't matter. I know who I am. I know what I'm about. I feel pretty good about what I want to do. I don't want to talk about every single pick. If you didn't know, there were just 10 rounds in the UFL college football draft. Now, there's going to be a number of other guys that get to try out for the league and try to make it, but the draft picks in the UFL are going to be players you know. At least you should. And if you don't, then I'll help you out. And I want to talk about it and I want to react to it. So we're going to go round by round as I scroll down. Full disclosure, I have not looked at the UFL draft list. I do not know who's going to be on this list. It will be a blind reaction by me. It will be a genuine reaction. And I'll give you my take on it, okay? I don't know these teams that well, although I probably know them better than the average fan. I don't know them the way I know the college football teams. Fair? I probably don't know them as well as I know NFL teams, and I don't even watch the NFL. But that being said, let's talk about these players who just finished their college careers and are probably looking to try to make it in the NFL. A lot of these guys are going to be on practice squads or at least in camp with NFL teams, and then once they don't make it, then they'll come over to the UFL and give them their rights. And I need to make that very clear. Back in the day, the UFL or the USFL was always trying to compete with the NFL for players. And they saw that that was a recipe for disaster, trying to outbid for players. They started paying absorbent amounts of money for guys like Steve Young, Reggie White, Herschel Walker. And when you start paying money for these star players, you are getting into a deficit. And the UFL does not have that plan. The UFL instead is trying to draft players that they are projecting won't make it on an NFL practice squad. Because if you don't make it on the NFL practice squad, now the 70, 80K that we're willing to pay you for the season at the UFL becomes a lot more enticing, right? No one's going to give up a chance to be on a practice squad to play in the UFL. So a lot of these guys, once they saw that they've been drafted, it's kind of like a backup plan. And that's okay. They're just guessing who's not going to make it and who is. And shout out to the UFL staff for recruiting and digging in the crates and finding guys. I'm assuming they're using third-party companies or maybe guys like me who know everyone in college football. That's pretty awesome. They do dig a little deeper than most, though. I promise you, there's going to be guys on these lists that I don't know. Because obviously my wheelhouse is every FBS team in America. I do dig into the FCS level recruits or FCS players that are transferring to FBS, FCS players that are all Americans or all conference. I'm aware of those guys, but I don't know everyone in the FCS. I don't know everyone that's draft eligible, so there will be people I don't know. Shout out to Terry Ann Ambrochu watching on YouTube right now. She just said, I love your t-shirt. Look at the t-shirt, bruh. Look at the t-shirt. It's not just a t-shirt. It's a way of life. I'm wearing a cape as well, but it's all good. I feel like Superman. I had a very good day today. Just got word I will be doing a radio interview in Jersey. It'll be early August. Shout out to Butch. Anytime he's on and he has a slot on his evening show, I think it'll be 5 p.m. Eastern. I'll probably do it during the podcast. I go and do a radio interview with New Jersey, talk about their area recruits, their schools, their colleges, and their outlook and things of that nature. So it's pretty cool to jump on the radio with them and talk on WAN Radio. But that being said, before we go any further, just want to remind you guys, the football season is about 40 days away. I am doing every futures bet you can think of, all the win totals. Everything's been made on the Patreon. Get to the Patreon, download it. It's an app. It's a website. Get to the Patreon. I have over 700 videos on Patreon that you've never seen. They're not on TikTok. They're not on YouTube. They're on Patreon. Go over there. That is my platform of choice. That is where you can become an MVP, and you can see what I think of your favorite team, whoever it is, and you can see what I think of every team. And then you can use all that information to get your bets right all season long, because that's what people are doing. They're winning a ton of money by getting their bets right. Okay? I just gave out a free video on the Patreon today on who I think is going to the playoffs and how you should bet it. And you can make a lot of money. I think I did a plus 158. If you don't know what that means if you bet $100, you'll win back $158. Pretty good. Now you can do that with any increment, but whatever you bet, you're going to win back 1.5 of whatever you bet. Okay? So with that being said, let's go look at this draft. Let's get excited. It says here with the first overall pick, they took Jason Bean with the number 1 pick. Let's go down here. Yup, Jason Bean, quarterback in the first round, Memphis Showboats. If you don't know Jason Bean, he was a stud quarterback at Kansas last year. Now, Jason Bean's been at Kansas for a long time. He's been a career backup there. He's been on and off the starter, but he was relied upon heavily because Jalen Daniels went down last year with an injury, and they looked at the bench and said, yo, we got Jason Bean. He comes off the bench. This is a guy who's been in college like 6 years, so he's a little older than most recruits, a little more physically developed, maybe even mentally developed, right? He has a good game and a good skill set, and kudos to him because the wheels didn't fall off on the season. The wheels did not fall off on the season when he stepped in. Most teams losing a starting quarterback, their team is never the same. Shout out to Florida State, right? If you lose your starting quarterback and he's a stud, your star quarterback, and the backup comes in and you don't see much drop off, it's a pretty damn good football player. He's a dual threat guy. He's a poor man's Jaden Daniels, if you will. I believe that. He's equivalent to Jaden Daniels in a bunch of metrics and the way they look and play, although he's not Jaden Daniels, right? Cool. Congratulations. I like that as a first overall pick. I don't mind it. Iabioki, I would have not made that pick. That's a whole nother story. I believe that's a former 5-star guy who kind of just didn't work out. I wouldn't have drafted him. Renegades get John Rice Plumlee 3rd overall. What a pick, bro. Now, I think John Rice Plumlee is going to make it in the NFL. If somebody can tell me in the chat who he's with in camp-wise, and shout out to TikTok, you're watching the show right now. You can go over to YouTube and join the show, and you can put in your questions, comments, and anything else you want. I don't read TikTok chat while I'm on the live stream, but thank you guys for being here. But yeah, we're talking about John Rice Plumlee. Crazy dual threat. If you ever want to see film of John Rice Plumlee, go to his freshman tape. Just look up Ole Miss versus LSU back in 2020, 2019, 2020. Somewhere around there. He rushes for 200 yards as a freshman quarterback against LSU, who was like the number 1 team in the country. I think LSU went out there and won the game. It might have been 2019 when LSU won the national title. This kid is a phenomenal athlete, dual sport athlete, right? Also a baseball player. I think he makes it in the NFL, but the Renegades had to take a swing at it. He's immediately the best quarterback in the UFL if he decides to play there. And listen to what I'm saying. We just watched Adrian Martinez dominate the league this year, and Adrian Martinez is John Rice Plumlee Jr., right? Minor. I don't want to say a poor man's John Rice Plumlee, but they're all kind of the same. What the UFL is recognizing is we need dual threat quarterbacks. We need some guys who are a threat to run the rock a little bit, extend the plays, because the offensive line is porous. The offensive linemen that make it to the UFL aren't necessarily that good. The NFL is taking all the linemen. There are no leftover linemen. So what you get are some guys who just aren't good. They bend at the waist. They don't have good feet. Terrible fundamentals. Don't pick up stunts. Can't see the blitzers coming. They just make a ton of mistakes. And you see a guy, any dual threat quarterback appears to be slightly successful. So look at the recipe here. They're going after quarterbacks that can actually run and make plays. So I like it. All right, DC defenders go out and get an offensive lineman, and then you see the St. Louis Battlehawks. They had enough of this. They're going out and getting a dual threat quarterback. Chevin Cordero, former Hawaii quarterback, finding himself at San Jose State last year, all conference, all Mountain West, stud. Go look at his game against USC. He could play. I like Chevin Cordero. That guy's a baller. I like him a lot. I'm excited for him. Julian Perro doesn't move the needle for me. Gabe Hall doesn't move the needle for me. Frank Crum does. Frank Crum, hey, you know what's crazy, guys? You guys want to see something nuts? And this is just me. Let me see if I got this. Here's the draft. You guys want to see something nuts, bro? Oh, I know Frank Crum was on my list. I was going to get excited. This is my list going into the NFL draft. These are the players. And Frank Crum used to be on this list on offensive tackle. I know he was, but I took him down. I know he was. I was going to show off and tell you he made it here. Whole nother story. Oh, by the way, there's John Rice Plumlee. Oh, by the way, there's Jason Bean. These were my hidden gems already. It's like the UFL teams watch my channel and get the list of the hidden gems. Don't you get it twisted. We're going to keep going. But there's John Rice Plumlee. There's Jason Bean. It's a good feeling, bruh. It's a good feeling. Let's go. We'll pull that off to the side and we'll wait for another pick or two. But that's the first round. Not a bad first round. Not a bad first round at all. Second round. Oh, there's Ingrid, by the way. Ingrid, you guys saw her at the Home Run Derby sang the worst national anthem ever. She said she's going into rehab. I want you guys to know something. Ingrid's a pretty good country singer. I like a couple of her songs, just so we're clear. Look at the first pick in the second round. Blake Watson. Blake Watson is him. Trey Fluellen. If you don't remember Trey Fluellen from Middle Tennessee State, one of the games with the MVPs, I told you guys Trey Fluellen is the only guy on defense at Middle Tennessee State worth talking about. He's an NFL caliber safety. This guy is a complete stud. Love everything about him. Griffin McDowell, Chattanooga, never saw him play. But these two first picks are something else. Blake Watson, 1,000-yard rusher, 1,000-yard receiver, former two-star wide receiver, signed with ODU out of high school, balled out of control at ODU, then transferred to Memphis. That's a player, bro. Memphis showboats they're showboating. They're showing off. Blake Watson, they got an A+ right now. Look what the DC Defenders did. They went and got Keaton Slovis. Former USC starter, former Pitt starter, former BYU starter. Keaton Slovis can play football as well, but he's not a dual-threat quarterback. Not bad. Cody Schrader, leading rusher out of Memphis last year, dominated the SEC all season long. For whatever reason, the NFL didn't believe in him. There he is, Cody Schrader. By the way, if we go over here and we look at the list, no Keaton Slovis on the list? Nope. But Blake Watson, he used to be on my list, bro. What a damn shame I took him off my list. I'm upset with myself. Let me go look at my safeties. Do I have Fluellen on there? I don't. Damn shame. They probably think a lot of these guys are making it in the NFL. I'm trying to look at my list. I used to have Schrader on there, but it is what it is. But still, pretty impressive, some of these names. I like Fluellen a lot, by the way. Houston Roughnecks got themselves a player in the second round. Going to the third round, we got to go to the trenches. That's fine. Neither one really moves me, but they can do that. Kalen DeLoach moves me, bro. Arlington Renegades, Kalen DeLoach, you see him here for me. I had him as one of my top 10 linebackers. I still think he's an NFL caliber player. When I watch Kalen DeLoach, I don't know if he's got injury concerns, character concerns. I don't know why the NFL teams aren't on him. When I watch tape, I see a guy that can really play. Let me increase the size here so you guys can see it. I just realized you guys might be on small phones and can't see anything. Let's keep it like that. Kalen DeLoach is here. Number 4, Leonard Taylor, stud defensive tackle out of Miami. Congratulations, you got a player. Payne doesn't move the meter for me, but I understand that people like size, so they go for it. This man moves the meter for me. Isaac Ukwu, coming out of Ole Miss. He's not really an Ole Miss guy. Yes, he played at Ole Miss last year, but before that, he spent like 4 years at JMU. This is a cyber defense. What do I want to call it? That's his major. His major is cyber defense, which is my major. Shout out to him. Isaac Ukwu, by the way, was one of the nation's leading sackers while at JMU, a complete stud and monster, transfers to Ole Miss, gets in the rotation, and it didn't help his draft stock. Here he is going to the Michigan Panthers, but I still think he's got an outside shot to make it in the NFL someday. I like Isaac Ukwu a lot. Shout out to Donovan Jennings. And then Amani Bailey. Amani Bailey, starting running back at TCU last year. I want to say he's a 1,000-yard rusher. If he's not, that's fine. Let me go see something. TCU football stats. Oh, by the way, everything's going to be purple and say you visited often because that's what the hell I do. All right? That's a whole nother story. Amani Bailey, 1,200-yard rusher. 1,200-yard rusher, 8 touchdowns in the Big 12. Just a complete stud of a running back. Anybody who keeps Cam Cook on the bench is really good to me. I like Amani Bailey. Congratulations. They got themselves a running back that I can respect. The Stallions do. I will say this. In the UFL, running backs don't dominate the way they do in college. Because once again, you need an offensive line that is gelled together with continuity, and there's no such thing at the UFL. There aren't offensive linemen that have been together for 3-4 years and know one another and help each other out. It doesn't work that way. So college run games are far more advanced or more productive than the UFL run games. That's for sure. All right. Before I go to the next round, I'm going to go to the chat. I just saw some chat in here, and then we'll go to the next round. Let me go over to the chat here. Gibbs says, you got 7 people in chat. Go flip some burgers. Hey, I did go to Red Robin for a burger, double burger. Shout out to their Royal Robin burger or something like that. The one with the over easy egg. I'm not worried about who's in chat, man. I'm making this video for everybody who's at work. Whoever's at work, it looks like Gibbs Season's not at work, and he's one of the 7 people in the chat. That dude sucks at life. I think Plumlee on the Steelers. Okay, Plumlee will make it on the Steelers. Shout out to you. Hey, Rico, the biggest difference between Division 1, 2, and Division 3 players. Resources. Resources. The biggest difference between Division 1, 2, and 3 players is resources, i.e. money, facilities, coaches, tutoring, opportunities, all this stuff. There's just a number of things. There are also metric minimums, if you will. That's okay. Also, why do some players fizzle out in college and others don't? Divine Obsidian, in my experience, players fizzle out in college because they don't love the game, bro. And they don't do what it takes to be successful at the game. I'll tell you guys this. Let's say you're just pretty good at football. That's not going to get you anywhere. Being pretty good at football doesn't matter. You know, if you don't nurture your skill set and you don't become dedicated to it, you're not going to be any better. I'll give you guys an example. The players who spend their time away from the field texting girls on Snapchat, on Instagram, those guys never make it, man. They don't. They're not focused on film. They're not focused on bettering themselves or their craft. It's the same thing I tell every single player in the DMs. When I talk to players in the DMs, you can ask any of them. And I've talked to thousands of them. And I say the same thing over and over. You either get better or you get worse. You never stay the same. And that's every single day. If you're on a diet right now and you say, I'm on a diet. Okay, did you get better today or did you get worse? Because you didn't stay the same. I need to know what you did. If you have goals, you should be working towards your goals every single day. Dreams, something you just dream about, think about, whatever. Goals, something you actively work towards. So what did you do today to achieve your goals? And if that means you do your homework, means you study a little bit more, like I need to know what that means. And they don't have it. They're missing it. Shout out to Fox Sports here. There's also a typo here. I think that's why they fizzle out, though. They just aren't focused and they don't have the resources to be better. Do all the players make the same amount in the UFL? Yes, except for the quarterbacks. Some quarterbacks get paid more in the UFL. They have contracts where they get paid a little bit more. Thanks for the responses, always. Let me go back to this list here because I just saw a typo. Memphis Showboats, they go, once again, knock it out and get Jalen Coker. If you didn't know, Jalen Coker is on my Deep Hidden Gems wide receivers list from the NFL draft. There's Jalen Coker's right there. I really believe in Jalen Coker. Complete stud at Holy Cross. Most people know Jalen Coker because Steve Smith started talking about him, but I knew Jalen Coker before that. I was talking about him before that. I don't need an NFL guy to tell me how good he is. Shout out to Donovan Manuel from FIU. Popo, good at. Hey, San Diego State offensive tackle Garrett Greenfield. This is not San Diego State. They don't know what they're doing. They saw SDSU and assumed it was San Diego State. It's actually South Dakota State. He's an FCS All-American. Garrett Greenfield is one of my favorite offensive linemen. You see it here. He was supposed to get drafted. His teammate Mason McCormick got drafted by the Steelers. These two guys are complete monsters, won back-to-back national titles, blocking for a running back named Isaiah Davis. Go watch film on South Dakota State, the Jackrabbits. That's who Garrett Greenfield is, and the DC Defenders got themselves an absolute monster. That is an NFL caliber offensive lineman, not San Diego State. Fox Sports, shame on you. These guys don't, like I said, these websites like this, they don't even know the players. They just do this list like that. They don't know these guys. They don't know them. Shout out to Dooley, man. Eastern Michigan had a great offensive line, and Dooley's one of those guys. I watched a lot of film on Eastern Michigan because they're in the MAC, and we bet a lot on the MAC. One guy I do want to talk about is Isaiah Williams down here. Not really Miles Battle, but Isaiah Williams, being a receiver at Illinois for a really long time, finally becomes the number one this year. And, I mean, he did well, but I don't like guys who can't score touchdowns. And that's one wide receiver who went half the season without a touchdown. I don't like it, but you go and get him. You go and get him. Give me Jalen Coker all day. But Garrett Greenfield, for me, the best pick in this round, it's out of those two right there. Garrett Greenfield and Jalen Coker. Once again, the Memphis, man, these Memphis showboats, they knocked this draft out at this point. They knocked it out the park. They must have all my notes, bro. Shout out to Amari Gaynor getting drafted in the next round. Really like him. Carl Jones Jr. There's Rocky Lombardi. There's Rocky Lombardi getting drafted, bro. Rocky Lombardi has been a quarterback for the last 8 years. Okay, he used to be the starting quarterback at Michigan State. Then he transferred to Northern Illinois, and he's been there for a while. But the sneaky good picks in this round, the two best picks in this round are Jamari Croma and Dallin Halker. Now, I'm going to talk about Croma first because I think he might have led the nation in sacks last year, or it was his teammate who got injured, and then Croma started getting a bunch of sacks as well. Croma's a hell of a defensive lineman at JMU last year. I thought he was a sneaky good pick to get picked in the NFL draft. I wonder if he made my list. Croma did not. But I know one guy that did, and that's Dallin Halker here. He's on my top 5 favorite tight ends. Halker right here. If you see it on the chart up top. I've had this chart out for months upon months, and they went and drafted Halker. Halker's a former BYU kid, transferred to Colorado State. He's married in college, very mature. His wife ran track. I like Halker a lot. He's the guy who, during the NFL Combine, he's the one who caught the pass with one hand and one ball in one hand. He had two balls under his arms, and he was running around. Yeah, that's Dallin Halker. He's a stud, man. I think that's an NFL guy as well. I think he'll dominate. I really do. I like those picks. Like them a lot. The last two picks in that round. We're in the 6th round now. In the 6th round, I start wondering who the hell's doing the drafting, bro. Showboats, you're fine. You went out and got yourself a center. But Houston Roughnecks, what are you doing? Houston Roughnecks went and got Malcolm Epps. Malcolm Epps, former 3-star tight end coming out of high school, signed with Texas. Didn't work out. He's 6'7", 6'8". He's a basketball player, bro. He's a basketball player trying to play football, and he's not good at football. He's just not. He went from Texas to USC, from USC to Pitt, and last year, I mean, they moved their quarterback, Joe Juravicius, the quarterback, Phil Jerkovic. They moved him to tight end because Malcolm Epps should not be on the field. Malcolm Epps had 9 receptions last year. I don't know why they keep drafting this guy just because he physically looks the part, but when it comes, he looks like Tarzan, plays like Jane. That's what he is. He looks like Tarzan, plays like Jane. That's not a football player. I don't think he'll make it in this league. I don't think he's a football player. I don't think he should be anywhere in this league. He's not built like that. Arlington Renegades getting Bo Richter. It's an interesting pick, man. Bo Richter, running back out of Air Force. I don't know how you take Bo Richter before Michael Wiley, but you did it. You did it. Michael Wiley can play football. We'll see what happens there. 2 more running backs. That's not bad. There's Dayton Wade. Dayton Wade, out of Ole Miss, turned out to be one of the top receivers at Ole Miss. And what's important to you and what's important to me is when I look at Ole Miss and their wide receiver room, I know what wide receivers didn't get on the field. And for Wade to be on the field, I know how good Wade is. I think Wade should have probably been a first-round pick in this draft. They got a ton of value for getting him way down here. So shout out to the Panthers for that. That's a very good pick. I hope Wade can play in the cold or wherever he's got to play. Lydetrick Griffin, a phenomenal returnman. I think if the UFL goes back to the old kickoff that they used to have, where the teams they go down there at the bottom down there and they do that blocking or whatever, I think Lydetrick Griffin's going to be a problem. He's a speed demon. He's great. That dude is the bee's knees. Trajan Jeffcoat, I want to say he's a transfer, and he wasn't always at Arkansas. I want to say he transferred from the Sun Belt. Not a bad player. Not a bad player. I watched a lot of tape on him as well. Yeah, so I'm really excited about these bottom dudes. And I like bottoms. No, Diddy. Let's go to the next round. Seventh round. There's Rigby at Temple. Not the best linebacker at Temple, but you take what you can get. Xavier Benson, same thing. Take what you can get. They're grabbing bodies. So far, none of these really move me. I don't know Baker. So shout out to him. I got to go find tape on Jelani Baker. Good players. Bo Braid played a lot of football at Maryland. Hakeem Dent. A lot of these guys played. This round for me, little underwhelming. No real home run gets for me. Pretty boring. Nothing too big. Let's see here. We're in the 8th round. They're digging in the crates. And they finally get it right, y'all. They finally get it right. We got one of the Yankee brothers down here. South Dakota State, though. They know not to call it San Diego State. South Dakota State, Jaden Yankee. If you didn't know, now you know. Yankee's a twin. He and his brother are the truth. They're great wide receivers. They were once on my Deep Hidden Gems list. I took them off for Ryan Flournoy, who I knew was going to get drafted. But they were on there. Studs. Love everything about them. Curtis Jacobs can play football as well. But that just looks great, man. That's awesome. I'm excited. The Battlehawks out here recruiting in the FCS. I like it, man. I'm excited for that. We're going to go. We got 2 more rounds left. Hey, McCallum Castle's been around for a long time. That's another tight end in that same class. I think he came out of high school 2017, 2018 timeframe. Came out with Epps. I know that tight end class well. I have evaluated that tight end class. That's the same year. Who's the kid from Florida who's now with the Falcons? Yeah, it's the same year he came out. A couple other guys on the list here. Shout out to J.D. Duplain. Excuse me, I was going to say Dunlap. DJ Miller at Kent State played pretty good. How about Tanner Mordecai going to the DC Defenders and Sam Hartman going in the final pick of round number 9? Let's talk about it. First and foremost, Tanner Mordecai, former Oklahoma quarterback, went to SMU, started playing out of his mind, transferred to Wisconsin, reminded all of us that he's pretty mid. And that's unfortunate because I actually like him. He is a dual threat-ish kind of cool guy. Reminds me a lot of Tony Romo, if you will. Reminds me of Tony Romo, although Romo was much better, obviously, but reminds me of Tony Romo. And then you have Sam Hartman. I told you guys Sam Hartman's not him. I don't give a shit where he transfers to. I said I watched a lot of tape on Sam Hartman. And he just doesn't look the part. I watched a lot of tape on Sam Hartman, and he doesn't look good. It looks like he threw to a 6'5" wide receiver named A.T. Perry for a couple years, and Perry had such a catch radius that Sam Hartman got a ton of stats after the catch. I said he's going to go to Notre Dame, he has no receivers, and he's going to suck. And everybody told me, no, he's a 6th-round draft pick, and he's going to go to Notre Dame and move up into the 3rd round. And I was like, you fans won't be here a year from now. You fans won't be here a year from now. And I didn't even make the video to say I was right. I haven't even victory lapped this. But here we have Sam Hartman going in the 9th round of the UFL draft. What a phenomenal move by transferring to Notre Dame. It really paid dividends, man. No, I think whatever he got paid in NIL will be the height of his NFL career or his professional football career. So whatever he got paid at Notre Dame, he'll never make that money again professionally. Sam Hartman's not a good quarterback. I think there's more upside for Tanner Mordecai, and I'm not that high on Tanner Mordecai. Congratulations for getting him drafted. And in the final round, I think this is the final round. Is there another round? No, this is the final round. In the 10th round, you'll never believe who gets drafted in the 10th round. Okay, Jaquarvius Spivey, yet another tight end from that class, that high school class. Jaquarvius Spivey, congratulations. He did play at Mississippi State for a while. Been playing there for a little bit. Congratulations. Drake Stoops, everybody's Nepo baby. Nepotism all day. Drake Stoops got drafted, and he can play some football. So congratulations there. Miles Jones. Miles Jones is a 6'4" corner. Injury prone like a mother flipper from Texas A&M, transferred to Duke for his final year. I like Miles Jones. Isaiah Stallbird. Go look at my list, bro. Go look at my list and tell me where's Isaiah Stallbird on my safeties chart. He's right here on my Deep Hidden Gems. Congratulations, yet another South Dakota State player. The FCS is livid. Everybody's here. Joseph Cephas going to the Brahmas, getting somebody local. This is a kid who played at UTSA, stayed there after, the best receiver transferred to Ole Miss. He said, I'll stay, hold the fort down. It didn't go well, but he got it done. He gets drafted. Congratulations to some of these guys. I'm excited for some of these picks, man. I really am. We'll see what happens with them. Some guys still have NFL aspirations, I'm sure, and they'll join the league after the fact. But for me, it's a pretty exciting thing to see players that I talk about and I know and I think very highly of, and the UFL values them just the way I do. Maybe I'm a UFL draft expert. Maybe I'm the guy who should be telling you who's going to get drafted in the UFL, because every guy I name that didn't get drafted by the NFL, everybody always points to me and goes, haha, you got it wrong. But I know I didn't, man. I know I didn't, because the track record speaks for itself, right? These guys who didn't get drafted, guys like Jack Westover, Dallin Holker, all these guys who didn't get drafted, I know they're going to make it. I know they're worth a grain of salt. I know how good they are. P.J. Jules is an NFL safety. They don't know how they're drafted. And the way we know this, if we go back to 2023, look at who didn't get drafted. And look who I valued. Ivan Pace Jr. right here. Didn't get drafted. Starling Thomas V right here. These guys are starters right now in the NFL after 1 year. After the NFL got it wrong, these guys are starters right now. Didn't draft them, and they're still starters. There's Caleb Murphy in the NFL right now. Thomas Incoom in the NFL right now. These are guys who did not get drafted, and I got it right over and over and over again. While the whole world was trying to convince you Michael Mayer was the best tight end in the draft, I told you pay attention to Tucker Kraft. He came through as a fourth-round draft pick for the Green Bay Packers after being the second tight end drafted by that team. When the world tried to tell you JSN is the best wide receiver, I told you I believe in Tank Dell and Josh Downs. There's just a method to my madness. There's a way I review tape and film, and it's different from everybody else. They didn't draft Keaton Mitchell. I told you Keaton Mitchell is him, and there he is. Didn't get drafted. There's Keaton Mitchell. So there'll be times you miss. There'll be times people don't understand why you're ranking Tajay Spears ahead of Jahmyr Gibbs. That's fine. That doesn't mean I don't know what I'm doing. That doesn't mean I don't get it right. The UFL finally watched the channel, finally got down with all the picks and all the analysis, and I made my picks correctly. My evaluations stand for where they are. Like I still feel good about my evaluations when I see another professional league drafting players that I valued, that I talked about. They're not ignoring the list. It's awesome. Let's go back. Let's go to the chat and we'll wrap up this show. I don't want to make it too long. Do all the players make the same amount? Yes, they do. Rico, which group of 5 team do you think had the best shot at the playoffs? You've mentioned Memphis and Boise State before. Just curious. Lavorne, that's going to be an MVP level conversation, one that I'm going to have with the MVPs on Patreon and within Discord and on YouTube. So please become a member of the MVPs and you'll know the answer to that question. I have mentioned Boise State in the past. I don't think Boise State's going to be the group of 5 representative. There are other teams I believe out there, especially after evaluating the offensive players. I'm still evaluating defenses, like I said, but I can show you my rankings and we can talk about it real quick while we're here. Let me show you this real quick. No, not that. Let me show you this. Where is it? Scoring top teams. When you look at the top teams and the top offenses that I have here on this chart, I'm going to blow it up for you guys so you guys can see it a little better. And I'll drag it into the screen. When you look at the top offenses in America, I have them in order by my scoring metric, and it's a formula. It's not just these numbers added together. Each number represents a certain weight. Everything's weighted differently, but you'll see group of 5 teams, and I want to talk about some group of 5 teams real quick. Number 1 is App State's offense. App State is special. So App State to me is a dark horse to make the playoffs. I got to check their defense, but offensively, App State is special. They look very comparable to Michigan State, North Carolina, and Colorado offensively. So I really like App State. Another team I really like is Texas State. Their offense is great. In the group of 5, South Florida. Their offense is the bee's knees. We're looking at there's Tulane and Fresno State. And I think at that point, I'll cut it off at Liberty and UNLV, and there's Boise State. So they're all kind of down here in this realm, in the 64, 65, 66 area, Liberty, UNLV, and Boise State. But for me, there's a distinct difference when you start looking at some of these other teams that I have higher. A lot of it has to do with like continuity on the offensive line, senior quarterback play, just studs. Like what's the team? Fresno State, man. Fresno State's offensive line is great. So when you look at a team like Liberty, and people believe in Liberty, Liberty's offensive line is terrible. Not terrible, just not as good as some of these others. So Boise, I don't believe in their quarterback play, their tight end, their wide receivers, or their offensive line. Their offensive line is fine. It's just all they have is a stellar running back room. So it's a little different. And I'll do the analysis. I'm working on the defensive side of the ball today. But it'll be a while before I talk about which group of 5 teams can make the playoffs, who's going to win their conference. I have 40 days to make that prediction. We'll get it done here shortly. So thank you for the question, though. I appreciate it. Next comment. Lewis Hinton, he's here. Roll Tide Roll, bro. Good to see you. Connor Formia says, I remember your video on Duke's Miles Jones, not the lacrosse player. Hey, he does remember the video. Yes, Miles Jones, the name Miles Jones, if you go Google it or something, that will come down as one of the GOAT lacrosse players of all time. That's not who I'm talking about, and that's what he's saying. Shout out to him. What do I think of Tulia Tagovailoa? The Maryland starting quarterback, I don't think very much of him. I don't think he's special. I just think he's just an average starting quarterback in the FBS. They come and they go every year. There's tons of them. I think in about 5 years, people won't remember him. I think you only know his name because of his brother. Nothing he did on the Saturday warrants you knowing his name. That's how I feel about it. But not going to do a long Q&A today. I just wanted to do a quick reaction to the UFL draft. Thanks for being here, guys. I appreciate everybody. Remember, your friends don't know, but Rico knows. Make sure you go and become an MVP. Get to the Patreon. You'll learn a ton about all the other teams. Peace, y'all.